I am Alice of KHR Arts and Cloud Orchid Publishing, and today I want to talk to y'all about one of my all-time favorite books, Daughter of the Forest by Juliet Marillier. Now, this is a fantasy story. It is specifically modeled after one of the Celtic Irish folklore tales about the Lady Unag, who is a magical being, and the tale of the Swan brothers. So this story, first and foremost, is just so beautiful, and it has in a big way influenced my personal writing. So my writing style is heavily influenced by this book. So we follow the main character is Sorcha, and she is the seventh child of the leader of Seven Waters. And this is back when Ireland wasn't really seen as the island as we know it today. This is during the feudal era when different sections of Ireland were ruled by these different chieftains. And so Sorcha's father is the chieftain of this area called Seven Waters. And the reason why it's called Seven Waters is it's these seven rivers that come together into this area, hence the name. And also the folklore around this area is the idea of the seventh son of the seventh son will fulfill the prophecy. So that's also a big deal about this. And Sorcha's father is a seventh son. And so it is his mission to have seven sons in order to fulfill this prophecy. Now, what exactly is the prophecy? The prophecy is that there are these three islands off the coast of Ireland that are very spiritually important to the Irish people. They believe they are these sacred magical places where the gods live. They call them the fair folk. Kind of like the idea of fairies, but not like Tinkerbell fairies. We're talking about the dark, scary fairies that kidnap you and stuff. So those are their godlike deity figures, is the fair folk. They believe they live on these islands, and that these islands are where only very select, special people who are deep in the druid ways of spirituality and stuff are allowed to go to do these very special magical practices and all of that. They have to win back these islands from the Britons, which is today's British people. Is the British came and they took these islands. They didn't understand the significance of the islands. They didn't really care. They just saw them as potential, especially with lumber. And so they kind of destroyed them and defaced them. And so they've been at war. So Ireland and England have been at war. And so that's why this prophecy is so important, is that the seventh son of the seventh son is meant to fight the British, win, and take back the three magic islands. So that's what this series is about. And unfortunately, Sorcha is the seventh child of this chieftain. And her mother died giving birth to her. And the chieftain and Sorcha's mother were ultimate soulmates. Think of the most beautiful, magical, amazing love story of all time. That was them. And so the chieftain was absolutely devastated when Sorcha's mother passed away, and he refused to take another wife because he's I cannot possibly love another. And so everybody is dude, we have a prophecy to fulfill here. Help, please. And he's I'm too sad. I can't. And so Sorcha is kind of put in this unique position in that she is not raised to be a lady, because she is largely ignored by her father and kind of by the household, and she's let to run wild with her brothers growing up. And so she ends up learning a lot about medicine. And she is on this path to become a healer. She has this cute little garden where she grows all these medicinal herbs. She's constantly learning about how to heal people and develop new things and stuff. And the turning point in the story is when this priest comes there, and he's a missionary, and he, wants to help convert them to Catholicism. And at the time, everybody is pagan. Obviously, they worship the fair folk and they have magic islands and all that stuff. And so he comes there to try to convert them to Christianity, but he does it in a very passive way of, I'm just going to present these ideas and just be really nice to these people, and hopefully they are moved by the spirits and whatever. So he's not brimstone and fire, scary and horrible. He's a nice dude. And that's important to this part of the story. And so because he's a nice dude, and in the spirit of Christianity, he ends up coming into, I can't really say the word possession of, because that's that makes him sound like an object, but he comes in the possession of this British guy, and he is severely injured and sick. And he has been trying to take care of him, but he is just not medically capable to deal with what this guy is dealing with. And so Sorcha is called to help heal this Briton in secret. And the reason why is because Sorcha and her brothers have befriended this priest. He's been like teaching them how to read, teaching them all these skills and stuff. And so he feels that he can trust them, and he knows about Sorcha's skills, so he calls upon her to help heal him. And Sorcha and the Briton start to kind of form, relationship is too strong of a word, but there's a, this is gonna, come back again later in the story kind of vibe here, where these characters are going to have something going on later in the story. And so Sorcha ends up healing the Briton. And it's kind of that idea of that you don't see your enemy as people until you actually experience a person firsthand. So up until now, Sorcha has seen the Britons as basically these like ogres, these not people, horrible creatures that are just here to kill people and be horrible. And so now she's presented with that she has to heal this guy that is her enemy. And up until now, she believed were like inhuman, horrible people. And she starts to realize he's just a regular dude. And she's like, oh. And so this makes her start to question things. Not so much like, hey, the British are cool and we should let them keep our islands or anything like that, but just that, oh, they're people, that sort of realization. And so he ends up getting better, and he is then taken back to, secreted away to be able to go back to Britain. And this experience remains with Sorcha, but it also is kind of the turning point of her abilities as a healer, that now she has healed somebody who was desperately in crisis. This is more than just like helping people that burn their hand in the kitchen or maybe had like a nasty fall from a tree or something. Like, this is somebody who was on death's door and she saved him. So this is a big turning point for her abilities. But the main big hoopla turning point of the story is after this, where shortly after the Briton goes back to Britain, and all of this is not really spoilers, y'all. This is all the story's got a story. This is setting it up for you for the big hoopla that's gonna happen, and then story's gonna story. So, we're in the phase of the hero is complacent with their life. Everything is going fantastically and they're happy. And so the only way to get story to story is to have something terrible happen, because the whole idea of, adventurers that are happy with their lives don't go adventuring. They have to have traumatic backstory, because why else would you go roaming about, in the countryside dealing with stuff? Why wouldn't you just stay home with your happy little life? There comes this news that her father has found a new wife. And everybody is like, what? Because everybody knows, like, his previous wife was his one true love. And all of a sudden, this lady we've never heard of just shows up out of nowhere. And suddenly he's like, I'm gonna marry her. And everybody's like, what? Turns out this new wife is the Lady Unog. Now, in this story, she is presented as the villain. In Celtic folklore, she is not necessarily always seen as the villain, and she is seen as a deity of love and passion and various other things. So she is not necessarily a bad deity historically. It's just how she's presented in this particular story and this particular folklore. She is seen as the villain. So she is the evil temptress that has used witchcraft to seduce the chieftain. And all of this is because she not only wants that position of power, being the wife of the chieftain, but also she wants to fulfill that prophecy. So it's kind of the selfish intentions for good outcomes kind of thing going on here. So it's like people can't be mad at it, but everybody knows hey, something's fishy here. This isn't good, but we kind of need this to happen. So yeah, we're all just going to cringe and let it happen. So that's kind of what happens. And Sorcha and one of her brothers kind of sees through her act, because they're both more spiritually aware and they're able to see the fair folk and stuff. Not everybody can see the fair folk. They can, and Sorcha ends up actually having an experience with one of the Fae in the story. And so they see her for what she is, and she knows that they can see her for what she is, and she's like, oh, this is a threat. This is not good. And eventually Sorcha and her brother convince her other brothers, we need to get rid of her. She is bad news. We need to get rid of her and save our father, because this is about to be real bad. We don't know what's going to happen, but it's going to be bad. She catches wind of their plan. And after she basically pushes her way through where it's like, they're getting married, there's nothing you can do about it, they're gonna get married, she conveniently gets rid of all of them. So right in front of Sorcha, she turns all 6 of her brothers into swans. And Sorcha was supposed to have something happen to her, but she ends up breaking free of the witchcraft and she runs away. And for reasons, Lady Unog can't chase after her. And Sorcha ends up running into one of the fair folk. And it is the fair folk, Lady Deidre. Again, one of the deities. And she basically exposits to Sorcha, you must take up the hero's journey and do the things to save the day, and it's going to suck and it's going to be really hard, but if you work really hard, you will save the day. And how she has to do that is she has to make shirts for each of her brothers and put them on them to turn them into people again. And she has to do it all at the same time, so she has to make all 6 shirts in order for the spell to be broken. Here's the catch, though. She has to make all 6 shirts out of this very specific type of nettle. And for those of y'all that don't know, nettle has these teeny tiny microscopic little like spines that hurt you just for the fact that they're like spines and they're very tiny and they're hard to get out of your fingers because they're tiny. But also there's like this minuscule amount of venom in them that hurts your fingers, that hurts any part of you that comes in contact with it. And so the fact that she is going to have to pick these things and spin them into thread to then weave them into fabric and then sew 6 shirts with these things, her hands are going to be destroyed. Like, I need you to just, for a second, understand how painful that's going to be, that she's going to have to pick all of these plants and then dismantle them, spin them into thread, weave that thread into fabric, and then sew the pieces of fabric together into 6 shirts. That is just incomprehensible pain for a very long period of time because of how long it takes to do that entire process times 6. And on top of it, she has to take a vow of silence. She is not allowed to make a single sound. From the moment that the fair folk, Lady Deidre, stops talking to her to the moment that she puts the last shirt on her brother's head, her last brother's head, and all 6 have shirts on. Between this period of time, she cannot not only not talk, but she can't make any sounds. So that means she has to be in pain and be completely silent. She can't say ow, she can't go oh, make any noises at all. Completely silent. Otherwise, the spell cannot be broken and she will fail. So just this completely monumental, crazy task that she is given is how story's gonna story. And so Sorcha runs away because the Lady Unog has married her father and turned everyone against the sons and Sorcha, and they all believe that I don't know, something happened to them and that it's explained and stuff because she uses magic to trick everybody. And so Sorcha's like, yeah, I can't go back home because they'll just kill me. So she has to go hide in the woods to now do this impossible task. Now, the nice thing about this is that it's like something with the moon cycle. I can't remember what in the moon cycle it is. It's either like the full moon or when there's no moon, something like that. That the brothers will, for one night from sundown to sunup, will be people again. And they'll be able to interact with her. But she still can't talk. She's not allowed to talk to them. But they'll be able to like take care of her and help her and stuff for that one night. And the first night when they become people again, they're like, oh my God, what is happening? What happened to you? Why are you doing this craziness? And they kind of piece together what it is that she has to do. And they're like, okay, this is what we have to do. We're going to do everything in our power to help you. Once a month when the moon does the thing and we're able to be people, we're going to do everything we can to help you. And so that kind of becomes the routine. And then, of course, story's got a story and some more bad stuff happens to Sorcha to push her along because, of course, we can't just have her just sit in a cave somewhere and just make shirts because that wouldn't be very exciting. And so she has this series of events that happens to her, and I don't want to spoil anything. But remember how I said about that British guy would come into the story again later? Well, he does. And that's how story's gonna story for where things are gonna get real interesting. And I can't tell you how because that would be a major spoiler, but this story is just so beautifully written, y'all. Like the fact that I have taken Juliet Marillier's writing style and adopted it into my own is honestly the highest compliment that I could ever pay to an author. The fact that I love her writing so much that it has heavily influenced the way that I write stories. I just love how detailed everything is. I love how lyrical the writing is. It's so beautiful the way it's written. Just absolutely fantastic. And then just also how the everyday life of these humans is balanced against the fantastical with the fair folk, and these big tales of folklore and prophecy and all this stuff are just weaved together so masterfully. That is something that I aspire to with my own writing when it comes to fantasy writing. So this has heavily influenced me as an author, and so I cannot express enough how much I love, in particular, the book Daughter of the Forest, but also the series at large. So I highly, highly recommend this book. I hope y'all enjoyed this video. If you did, please be sure to give it a like. And if you're new, subscribe. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for watching. Take care. Bye-bye.